Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today we are here to talk about the new Huda Beauty baking powder. So if that's something you guys are interested in watching, then you're in the right place. We're about to get into it.
I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf.
We're gonna get into the Huda Beauty Easy Bake Powder, and before we actually get into the component, there is a little bit of a controversy that I want to address, and I feel like I have to be really careful with the way that I talk about this, specifically on this channel. Because on this channel, we do talk a lot about imitation palettes. Bad Habit, for example, is one of the best imitators in the game. Did you guys know they're getting ready to come out with a dupe for the Pat McGrath palettes? I'm freaking out and I'm so curious about it. So there's a couple of things I want to know from you guys down in the comments. A, do you think that they're going to bite off more than they can chew because they're coming for Pat McGrath? B, the price for this palette is $24, which is quite expensive considering Bad Habit. However, they are duping a $200 palette. So when you think about a $200 palette versus the $24 dupe, it is just $24. And three, they've created brand new formulas for this palette. I mean, you're gonna have to if you're gonna come for Pat McGrath, right? So what do you think about the new formulas and the possibilities that that opens up for this company? I am so curious to what you guys think about this whole thing. So this is a really good example to talk about before we discuss the Huda Beauty debacle, and we're gonna have a discussion about intellectual property. So for example, when you look at the marketing for the Pat McGrath eyeshadow palettes, they were very eclectic. It was this whole kind of alien mothership, very weird kind of vibes when it came to the marketing campaign for the Pat McGrath palettes. The Bad Habit series is their new Luxe series, and the new Luxe series is including the Pat McGrath dupe as their first launch. Now, in the Luxe series, they have a series of palettes that's going to come out, and they are the Cult palette. And the first Cult palette is called the Mystics. If I had a feeling, the next one is probably going to be called the Gnostics, and the next one is probably going to be called, I don't know, but the genre for it is called the Cult. So I guess they're going to go with things that are like occultish or cult-like. I'm not really sure, but it's a completely different marketing campaign than the Pat McGrath Mothership palettes. So really the only similarity is just going to be the colors. You're going to get the same exact colors, hopefully a formula that's pretty similar to the Pat McGrath formula, but they didn't steal Pat McGrath's intellectual property. They didn't steal her concept behind it, her marketing campaign. When it comes to a marketing campaign, you really put into that brand your passion and your vision for that branding and that marketing. And I think if somebody's going to rip that off, that's the difference between a knockoff, which I think is awful. I think people that completely rip a palette and have identical coverings, the identical brand name on the front, it's a knockoff, and that practice I don't support, and mainly because you don't really know what's inside of those things, and sometimes they can be very hazardous. But not only that, but you're actually stealing somebody's intellectual property. You're stealing a concept that they thought up, a marketing campaign, a theme that they brought to the table that identifies them as a different brand. Now for me, intellectual property is a line for me. I am pretty close to the line when it comes to Bad Habit Beauty, But the thing about Bad Habit Beauty that keeps me on the side of approval is because they have always reached for palettes that are priced out of the market for some people, actually for a significant amount of people that just can't afford it. And they bring it down to a level that allows it to be marketed to people that just don't have $200 to drop on a palette. But they have enough respect for the artist and for the artistry that they don't go and rip the entire campaign, the passion, the idea, everything away from that artist and then remarket it. They just don't do it. I think they really do imitation in a very classy, dignified, above board, and non-shady way. Number one, they have a very public website. Number two, they have all their ingredients posted. Anyone can look them up at any time. Number three, a lot of times when you look at these palettes side by side, even the tones, as similar as a lot of them are, sometimes they'll deviate by a shade or two in some of their palettes. So oftentimes they're not even exact dupes, although they are pretty close. But number three, they come up with their own concepts. They come up with their own marketing. This is a good example. This is like an after party collection. You have After Charge, you have After Glow, they have After Dark, After Party, whereas Huda Beauty called her minis the Obsessions, and they had Warm Obsessions and Jewel Obsessions, and it was all about obsessive and obsession, and it was just a different marketing campaign. So I feel like Bad Habit has always respected everyone's intellectual property, which is one of the main reasons why I have a lot of respect for Bad Habit as an organization. Now, having said that, I feel like what Huda Beauty did when it comes to this particular product, the Easy Bake Loose Powder, well, just to be frank, I feel like they completely ripped a smaller indie brand's intellectual property off. But Huda Beauty recently brought on an investor called TSG, and now the investor is all involved in Huda Beauty, and it's turned into this huge conglomerate. Thus, you see Huda Beauty in Sephora, and you see Huda Beauty expanding out into the beauty industry because now they are half owned by TSG. So you are talking about a giant conglomerate that looked at a little indie brand, Beauty Bakerie, looked at the concept and thought that's a really good idea, and built their entire marketing campaign around the Beauty Bakerie's intellectual property. And as far as I'm concerned, there isn't enough differentiation between the two for this not to be a straight out theft of intellectual property. I was very upset to see this happen. Number one, Cashmere Nicole, who is the owner of the Beauty Bakerie, is a female. This is a female-owned small indie company. It's a Black-owned brand. She is a cancer survivor. She is a self-made woman that really has overcome immeasurable obstacles in this woman's life to be where she is today. For those of you that haven't seen me kind of break down Cashmere Nicole and the whole Beauty Bakerie story, I'll link it up here somewhere for you. So for Huda to come along and to take that whole concept and do that in this powder was really shocking to me. Number one, this concept does not match up with anything else that Huda Beauty has. Huda Beauty has always had this theme that is very ethnic and very Dubai and very kind of desert sunset Arabic kind of beauty, and that's the brand and the vision that Huda Beauty has always kind of encompassed. Everything from her desert palette to, it's just the way that you kind of think of the brand when you think about Huda Beauty, and I always thought that that was beautiful and part of Huda herself, and I always thought that that was fantastic. And then she does this powder campaign that's got her in a kitchen baking. Zero to do with like the rest of Huda Beauty. Now, don't get me wrong. If someone comes out with like a liquid lipstick and they call it frosting, like that's going to happen. You have things like that that tend to cross over in the beauty industry. I think this is very different. I think what really bothers me the most is that knowing that TSG is now involved with Huda Beauty, somewhere in a room, somewhere, there was a conversation that took place where they said, look at this campaign, look at what we're doing. Do you think there's going to be any liable? No, I don't think so. They're a small brand. We should be good. Go ahead. I guarantee you that conversation took place somewhere, because there's no way that Huda Beauty ran this concept all the way through marketing and all the way out to production and someone didn't say, hey, this is awfully close to what the Beauty Bakerie is doing. Do you think we're okay here? I guarantee you that question came up. And because they went forward with it, the answer had to be, we're good. That's a problem for me. That's a problem for me. And is especially considering the dynamics of this, because it is such a big conglomerate and Beauty Bakerie is such a smaller brand. I think that makes it worse, and I think it does exacerbate the situation just a little bit. Now, I will say that the Beauty Bakerie and Cashmere Nicole have set an incredible example for the entire beauty community on how to handle something like this with absolute grace and class all the way through. There has been no sideways shadiness going on social media. There hasn't been any nasty coming for this, coming for that. Her customers are speaking for her very loudly, and that is a good thing. That's how the free market is supposed to work. But Cashmere Nicole has been very gracious about the entire situation, which in my opinion makes her a better woman than I am. But I think what's upsetting for me about the whole situation is that Huda Katan, who is Huda Beauty, it's Huda, she started out as an influencer. She started out small. She started out putting every dime that she had into her rose gold palette. She started out little. She knows the struggle. She knows what it means to have passion about something. And for her to have that knowledge and that experience, and for it not to matter when it came to this decision, for me, it just speaks volumes. It does. It just does. Now, she could have gone 1,000 different ways with this face powder out of respect for Beauty Bakerie. It could have been anything to stick with the theme that Huda Beauty has always had going through her whole entire line. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of people out there that disagree with me and say, you know, that whatever. I get the other side of the argument. I do. But I really feel like this was, I mean, they even show her in a kitchen baking a cake, you guys. Like, all right, so rant over. Let's actually talk about this product. So if you look at this particular product itself, I'll give you guys a close-up of it here. Number one, it's $34. It comes in a really cute little package. It talks about instructions. The way that the component opens up is very unique. It has instructions on the bottom. When you actually open the lid itself, you have a nice little top on it, and then when you lift the top, you actually have some netting underneath there that keeps the powder from fluffing out everywhere. It is a very finely milled powder, and it also comes in 8 different shades. So packaging is cute. I appreciate the 8 different shades. I just don't know if it's going to be worth the actual $34 spend. It all depends on how the powder itself performs. Now, I have played with this powder for about a week, and to be honest with you guys, I like the powder. It does a fine job. I don't like it for baking. I feel like it is very heavy and cakey looking when you bake underneath the eyes with it, and I also feel like it leaves a little bit of like creasing. It just looks like you have a layer of powder on the skin. Now, in a very fine layer, just kind of dusted on the face. It looks beautiful. It mattifies the skin. Now, baking like here, the center of the forehead, even putting some right here on the bridge of the nose, the chin, the cupid's bow, and letting that sit for a little while and then dusting it off does give a great brightening effect to the skin, and I enjoyed using it that way. But as soon as my natural oils started mixing with the product a little bit, you start to get that breaking up and that cakey look. So that I'm not a big fan of. One thing I will say is that I didn't remember the Beauty Bakerie powder doing that. So I thought maybe we should put these two head to head and see what happens. So that's what I did. I just wanted to remind myself how the Beauty Bakerie powder up against the Huda Beauty powder actually performed, since those are the two that everybody's talking about. Let's see how these two performed up against each other. So first of all, $10 cheaper, $24, and it comes in the cutest little bag. It looks like a flour bag, like a bag of flour, and the whole concept is baking, that you use this to bake, like you would bake a cake to bake your face, you know, baking powder, just like Huda Beauty said. So this came out like forever ago and everybody really liked it. This actually comes in 4 shades, so you can get it in a darker shade, a pink shade, a yellow shade, a translucent shade. So there's different shade options when it comes to this as well. And this is also very finely milled, and I remembered this being very brightening and looking very nice on the skin as well. So let's see what happens when we put these two side by side. Okay guys, I just want to start by saying, first of all, for clarity purposes, I did try this side by side once, and right before I tried it and filmed it, I jabbed myself in the eyeball with a mascara wand, and my eye was looking kind of crazy, and I really felt like it impacted the way that the setting powder underneath the eye looked. So this is actually the second filming of the whole process, but out of fairness, I am going to show the very first testing of this process after you guys watch this one. So I just wanted to put that little clarifying caveat in there. Yeah, it's really important to make sure that you're paying attention to putting mascara on and not the 6,000 things going on around you. So, all right, so here we go. We are applying the powder here. And as you saw in the very beginning of this clip, we are using the Flower Beauty on the left side and the Huda Beauty on the right side. And then you'll see in the first one that I did, I actually flipped it. So I kind of wanted to see results on each individual eye as well. So I did use the Huda Beauty to set my T-zone because I just wanted to see how it would do in the T-zone, but this is while it's baking. All right, so we're sweeping off the Flower Beauty here, and then we will sweep off the Huda on the other side. One thing I did notice with the Huda is that it did gather up in the tear duct for some weird reason. You can see it there. I was like, what is that? But I easily removed it, so it wasn't a big deal. But when you look at this side by side, I definitely think that the left side color corrected more and looks much smoother. So I really liked the Flower Beauty side a little bit more. Now this is the first one. As you can see, my right eye is not happy right now. But this is the first one, so I flipped it in this one. The Huda will be on the left and the Beauty Bakerie will be on the right side. So this is obviously just the application process, and you can see even in this, you can see that the Flower Beauty to me just has this more of a brightening effect than the Huda Beauty does, and I feel like it also is a lot thinner, like more finely milled, whereas the Huda seems to be like a little thicker to me in a consistency, from a consistency perspective. Now don't get me wrong, I think the Huda Beauty powder is beautiful, but when I look at them side by side, I just feel like the Beauty Bakerie sits prettier. And I will say this from a performance perspective, the Flower powder from the Beauty Bakerie mixes with your natural oils much better than the Huda Beauty does. The Huda Beauty tends to break up just a little bit and get a little cakier underneath the eye as opposed to the Beauty Bakerie. And I don't know, I guess it's just a personal preference when it comes down to it. But this is the first one. So again, this is the Beauty Bakerie side. And this is the Huda Beauty side. See that my tear trough there is so dark. But on the Flower Beauty side, or the baking flour side from the Beauty Bakerie, I feel like my tear trough and all of that was just much brighter. And for me, just better. So for me personally, I think that the flour baking powder from the Beauty Bakerie just looks prettier. It looks brighter. I continued to wear the half and half face throughout the course of the day so that I can compare long-term results next to each other. And again, around that 4 or 5 hour mark when my natural oils came to the surface, it just didn't mix with the Huda Beauty powder very well. But I did notice that the Beauty Bakerie powder, when my natural oils would come to the surface, it really just seemed to kind of sink into the skin. It didn't break apart, it didn't cake up on me, and it didn't cause those kind of creasing things to happen underneath the eye. So at the end of the day, I think the Beauty Bakerie is just a better product. Not to mention that it's $10 cheaper. So at the end of the day, am I a little prejudiced because I feel like what Huda Beauty did was wrong to the Beauty Bakerie? No. At the end of the day, this has always been an Erika approved product. I'll put the link up here so you guys can go back and check out the things that I've said about the Beauty Bakerie in the past. So this has always been a very solid performing product as far as I'm concerned. So that aside, when you think about the Huda Beauty powder and you compare it to the other powders out there on the market right now, I just don't think it's worth the spend. At $34, I just don't think that this outperforms cheaper, less inexpensive products out there that perform better than the Huda Beauty powder does on its own. Now this does give a very unique finish. It does have this really kind of beautiful matte finish to it, and it really does look pretty for about 4 to 5 hours. But after that, it just really cakes up and it's just really heavy on the skin, and it's just not my favorite. Now, when it comes to setting powders, so you think, okay, Erika, so then what are some of your favorite setting powders? Well, it depends on what you're going for. If you want something that is brightening and mattifying and isn't going to cake up on you, but around the same price point as the Huda Beauty powder, but just performs a little bit better, I would say go with the Too Faced Perfect Peach powder. This powder is a beautiful powder. It looks stunning on the face. It doesn't ever turn really cakey on you, and this does a great job at controlling oil. If you want something around that same price point, as a matter of fact, I think it's exactly the same price point. I think it's exactly $34. That's going to give your skin a poreless look, like get rid of all of your pores, make your skin look like smooth, like there's no texture on your face at all. Then go with the RMS Beauty, the Unpowder. Now, this is also a talc-free formula, but when you put this on your skin, it looks like all your pores are gone. But go easy on this because this can look a little heavy, but in a really light layer, this powder is stunning. And if you struggle with large pores, this is going to be your answer. Now, if you're really concerned about brightening the under eye area, the yellow flour baking powder from the Beauty Bakerie is going to be your best bet. I love this for brightening the under eye area. I think it's beautiful. It sets on the skin gorgeous. They also have it in a translucent formula if you just want to control oil in your T-zone, but it doesn't completely like flatten your face out so matte that you look like really, really matte. It still allows like some naturalness to come through, and it gives you a very natural look throughout the course of your day. Now, the Peach Perfect from Too Faced, now this is very mattifying, so if you really like that mattifying look and you really want your oils to be controlled, this is a beautiful powder for that. And again, if you're looking to cover up pores but control your oil, then the RMS Beauty Unpowder is going to be your best bet. So those are my best recommendations when it comes to setting powder. The CoverFX setting powder, the Perfect Perfect powder is also one of my favorite talc-free formulas. It doesn't get cakey on the skin, and it actually has a little bit of radiance to it. So if you're looking for something that's not matte, but it allows like your radiance to kind of come through, that's a great powder. And as much as I hate to say it, another good powder for radiance is the La Mer powder, but this bad boy is really expensive. If you're gonna shoot for something this high end that gives you kind of that radiant look to your skin, I would definitely say just go with the Hourglass or go with the CoverFX, the Perfect powder. Either one of these would be fine. All right, guys, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm sure everybody's gonna wanna put some comments down below, so I definitely look forward to hearing everybody's opinion about this issue. If you are new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, just in case you don't want to miss any of my future videos. If you appreciate the work I do, there'll be a link in the credits that'll show you how to support this channel, and I hope everybody is happy and healthy, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Mwah.